Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optics Podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin, and today we're going to be sharing our thoughts and insights, our comments, our questions, our concerns of the Borderlands movie. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optics. That is Optics with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptics@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. And if you have any other questions that you would like to send to us directly, depending on what you're listening to our episode on, you can actually send us a text message. It doesn't really give us the number itself, but it like kind of puts it in like a miniature or like a smaller email box altogether. But if you're on Apple Podcasts and you're scrolling through the episode notes of this episode, and honestly for any of our episodes, at the very top or the very beginning of the episode notes, there should be a link that says send us a text message. So you can definitely send us a text message. I'll have to do a little bit more research to find out if there has to be a specific number to that, but I think it's set up a certain way where I have to dig through on the back end to find out what that is. But I found that out the other day and I thought that was pretty cool. And the same thing will happen on Spotify as well, from what I've noticed. But Devin, how's your weekend been? What's going on? What's going on new in your life? Have you been watching anything new, interesting lately? I know Umbrella Academy Season 4 has dropped. I actually have not started it yet. I'm a bit behind myself. It's been kind of a crazy weekend on my side, but what have you been up to this weekend?
Yeah, there's a lot to watch right now. A lot going on for kind of the dog days of summer. We're in the middle of August. But yeah, I did start Umbrella Academy. I'm about halfway through. Oh. Which is actually not that impressive. It's only 6 episodes. I was surprised to see.
It's only 6 episodes?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was surprised too. So I'm only three down so far.
Well, that's pretty disappointing. But I mean, wow, I didn't even click on it to see how many episodes there were, but I guess that's good to know. Short and easy.
I'm also, I've watched all the episodes available for Love is Blind UK. I've got to dive into that. You already know.
Oh, that it's out already. Oh, dude, you should not
only the first 4 episodes are out. They do like the batches of episodes.
Heck yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you've been watching some new stuff. I've been watching new things. I finished that 90s show, season 2. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked the first season, but I think season 2 is definitely improved upon for sure. And it's definitely worth a watch. Like for anyone who is a That 70s Show fan out there, I know there's like a lot of sitcom revivals that happen on Netflix, but I think that 90s show is definitely one of the better ones that has happened within recent years. So definitely go check that out. Outside of that, I've been watching the Maze Runner movies. I'm 2 down. I need 1 more to go. Oh, I started watching Freaks and Geeks. I just had a really weird surge to watch it because I don't think I've watched it all the way through.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it's great.
Is it only 1 season or 2 seasons? I know it wasn't much.
It's only 1 season. Yeah. But it's like 15 or 20-ish episodes.
Just that cast was just insane.
Yeah. And each episode's 40 to 45 minutes. So it's not like your average, runtime. So, you definitely get your time's worth, I guess you could say, for that. I was actually just watching that right before we hopped on here to record. But yeah, outside of that, we saw Borderlands, saw Cuckoo this weekend right here. We're going to be talking about some Borderlands action. For this review, there isn't anything to necessarily spoil. If you're familiar with Borderlands, you've played the games, you're going to catch on to the story really, really quick. So we're just going to give our no holds barred type of reaction for this. We will be giving a spoiler-free section as in like our initial reactions, and then afterwards, I will say once we're going to get into quote-unquote spoilers, but again, there's really nothing to spoil. So it's, unless you've never heard of Borderlands before, there's like one twist that's like lore-wise. But I digress. With all that said and with all that out of the way, we will be right back after this introduction to Borderlands.
God, I hate this planet.
3, 2, 1.
Directing Borderlands. Luckily, I had the creators to take me through the game in years and years of Borderlands lore.
The characters form this strange, dysfunctional family.
What did I tell you?
Minimal explosions!
I said no explosions!
We had to really get some education and backstory for Pandora.
Would you look at that? A ladder! Unfortunately, my design doesn't facilitate this type of...
I am so psyched to be portraying Claptrap, the legendary robot.
Step aside, bitches!
It has pathos, it has humor, it has a lot of action.
I'm so grateful that the game has such brilliant characters.
In order to create such a crazy world, you have to bring a certain kind of craziness to the table yourself.
I want people to go, that is the best time I've had in a movie theater in years.
And we are back with our Borderlands review. I have a feeling, Devin, this is going to be a very short review, given the unfortunate discourse that has happened with this movie, more so than just people watching it. But there's just been a lot of nothingness surrounding this film when it comes to marketing, when it comes to, the marketing push from Gearbox and from Lionsgate themselves, because I believe this is a Lionsgate film underneath their umbrella. But this film is directed by Eli Roth and written by Eli Roth and Joe Abercrombie. No, not that Abercrombie.
Could be.
Really? I don't know. I never thought that, because I know that I can't get into the history of Abercrombie. It could be. We'll leave it up for chance for sure. If anyone else out there knows, definitely send us a message on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, if we got that wrong. I never thought that one of the Abercrombie crew would be, in ties with Borderlands. But, there's the first.
The movie was just missing a Fitch at this point.
Exactly.
The missing part of the potion.
That's probably why it's sitting at a 9% on the critic side for Rotten.
Oh, it's all the way up to 9 now. I didn't even look because it was at 0 for like the first half of the day, and then I saw it went up to like 4.
I know, dude. 9% for critics and 49% for audience score. So nobody likes this movie. But to be fair, for those who actually don't know, before I get into the rest of the star cast, when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, I don't think a lot of people understand how Rotten Tomatoes works, because we used to think it worked one way. So if a movie is sitting at a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means that 9% of the, I think it's at 99 reviews of critics. So 9% of the critics out of 100 who went to go see this movie liked the movie.
Basically, 10 of the 100 critics would recommend seeing the movie. Right.
So that's how Rotten Tomatoes works. I'm not sure if people know that, but that's how it works. And same thing with the audience score. 49% out of the 250 plus quote unquote verified ratings. I don't really know if any audience score is really verified on Rotten Tomatoes, nor do I know how to submit a audience score to Rotten Tomatoes, but 49% out of 100 people enjoyed the movie. But anything that's I think it's below 60 is considered a rotten score on the tomato meter, which is like the critic side. But I just wanted to get that out of the way and to let people know. But this film does star Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart. We have Ariana Greenblatt coming into the mix. We have Jack Black here. We have Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jack Black Claptrap.
Yeah, Jack Black Claptrap.
It's a tongue twister.
It really is. So we have Edgar Ramírez playing Atlas. So on paper, and I remember when this movie first was announced, Devin and I both being major Borderlands fans since really the early days, because the first Borderlands video game, which this is based off of, it's based off a video game franchise, not necessarily adapting a specific story, but it is quote unquote adaptation, however you want to slice it. So Devin and I are really big Borderlands fans. We were pretty excited for this, and they kept this. When I say they, I mean Lionsgate, Gearbox, 2K Games. They kept this under wraps for so long, and I was wondering when this movie was coming out because we didn't hear anything. There was no updates. There was nothing. Like, there was a few shots or like screenshots that we kind of sort of saw. I think there was like a video during, I think, one of the last E3 or sometime during Summer Games Fest a few years ago. But it's been crickets ever since. So I was very worried about this movie. And for those who don't know what this movie is about, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So for those who don't know, I'm going to read off the synopsis really quick. I'm doing this a little bit out of order today, but bear with me. This movie is based off of the best-selling video game franchise. This all-star action adventure follows a ragtag team of misfits on a mission to save a missing girl who holds the key to unimaginable power. So that is the long and short of it altogether. But I'm going to actually pass it over to Devin here because I feel like I've been talking my butt off about this. Devin, we got another video game adaptation here. We're both Borderlands fans. What did you think of this movie?
Yeah, just when we thought we were kind of breaking through a little bit with video game adaptations, like we were having some success, and then this one just has to come out and put a damper on that. Yeah, like you mentioned, we've been Borderlands fans for a while now. I played every Borderlands game except for the Telltale one. Never got into Telltale games, but so yeah, I played Borderlands 1, 2, the pre-sequel, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Like, yeah, our whole friend group is a big fan of this series. So going into this, we at least had that built-in fandom. Just going in knowing the characters and the stories. The thing with the Borderlands games is the stories are never really front and center. Like, you don't really care about the stories for the most part. It's more so just having fun shooting things and collecting a bunch of different guns and killing crazy enemies. It's kind of the lore of Borderlands. That's kind of the original looter shooter when it came out way back when. So going into this movie, I didn't really know what to expect. Eli Roth, coming off of Thanksgiving, which was very successful. Definitely a good slasher. He's definitely good when it comes to horror. He can definitely direct a good horror movie, but I just don't think he was the answer for this one because this one just really did not work on any level that I can think of. It's kind of sad. Like, I know for a while it was at 0%, but I just was kind of like, it can't be that bad, right? Like, it can't be worse than Madam Web. That's what I was thinking going into it. Like, I was expecting it to be bad. Don't get me wrong. I was expecting not good things, but I did not expect it to be that low. But then as you're watching, it's just, you can kind of see there's just really nothing going for it. Starting off with the cast, they did get the A-list cast, and they got a bunch of stars, which good on them. I'm sure they got paid a lot of money to be in this movie. Cate Blanchett, I'm surprised she agreed to it, but she is in it as Lilith, the star of the show here. Kevin Hart as Roland, which is the casting that everyone rolled their eyes at because it did not make any sense. Obviously, Kevin Hart is a small-statured man who is very funny. And the character of Roland is kind of the opposite of that. Like, he's not really a humor-centric character, I would say, from the games. And it kind of carries over into the movie, where Kevin Hart, he doesn't really have many jokes to say in this movie because he's playing Roland, who's more of a serious soldier type. So that casting just never made sense, and it kind of comes off on the screen. I did think Ariana Greenblatt was great as Tiny Tina. It was interesting that they made Tiny Tina kind of the center of the movie for the first half, at least, because she is definitely more of a side character in the games. I mean, I know she got her own game, but for the first few, she was not like one of the main characters. So that was interesting. I think she did a good job. And then Jamie Lee Curtis as what's her name, Tannis. Just a little bit too old, I feel like, for that character. Yeah, none of it really came together. Like the cast, none of it really fit. Jack Black as Claptrap. I mean, he sounds fine, but the jokes, none of them worked. Like, I was in a theater with only a few people, but I did not hear any laughs like the entire movie. It definitely wanted you to laugh, so that's kind of sad. And the CGI, it's just really rough in parts. It's just there's the action scenes. There's not really much, like, I'm not gonna remember a single scene from this movie.
No, I mean, I'm kind of mad that I spent money to go see this, but at the same time, I'm glad that I did, because, like, I said,
I'm glad I did the $5 T-Mobile code that somebody gave me.
You're glad that someone reached out to you about the $5 T-Mobile code.
Well, yeah, no, I reached out into a Discord actually, and then someone gave me their code, so I was able to at least get a $5 code, and then I actually really made it worth my while because I went in to watch Cuckoo after Borderlands, so I kind of got a 2-for-1 there. I didn't want to have my money wasted.
I got you. Yeah, I spent $16 on a ticket for this one. I didn't really think about doing what you did. I was like, well, you know, I knew it was going to be at least like $12, but $16 for a standard movie ticket, like, that's not IMAX or anything like that, even though that's pushing IMAX prices. I would have to agree. It's like, I see this film being compared to Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't really see it. Maybe it's because we are gamers and we are familiar with this original material. But I think Borderlands and a few other video game adaptations, Halo should work, but it's kind of like 50-50. So it's like, but my point is, not every video game franchise needs a live action adaptation or a story that is based off of a video game franchise and has been brought into live action. I don't think every video game franchise needs to be adapted into a movie, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure who this is for. And as I said, as an avid fan of the games, I was kind of embarrassed because it's like, you know, they didn't really treat this with care. The pacing is all over the place. They just jump from location to location. You know, they try to build this bond between these 5 characters, but I don't see the Guardians of the Galaxy vibe here.
Yeah, it's been getting a lot of comparisons to Guardians, and since the first trailer came out, and then even after the movie came out, people have been kind of, there's been a lot of weird tweets I've seen, like, blaming James Gunn for this somehow. That's like a really, really bad take I've seen. I think some people are actually thinking it is James Gunn that made this movie, which is ridiculous, but then people are also saying it's his fault for creating a Guardians type of style, which is just absurd.
Which doesn't make any sense because, number one, the Guardians of the Galaxy have been along way longer than James Gunn has ever been alive. And so has Borderlands. And because, I mean, the first Borderlands game came out in 2009. So it's like this humor and, you know, the wackiness of Borderlands, that has always been there. Like this, like the Borderlands video game franchise predates the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Now, I don't know how long the Guardians of the Galaxy as a Marvel property have been around. I'm assuming for a little bit longer than the Borderlands video game franchise. But Yeah, I don't know why people are blaming James Gunn, because this is literally what Borderlands is. It's just not a good adaptation. It's not a good representation of the world. I saw someone on Rotten Tomatoes that said that the movie is as bad as the as the original source material. I was like, okay, let's not go there. I don't know who it was. I was just reading through some Rotten Tomatoes scores.
Yeah, Borderlands as a game series definitely gets a lot of hate, just of how goofy and stupid it can be.
Yeah, and that's the weird part. And my friend Austin Burke, he has his own YouTube channel, and I'm actually going to read his Rotten Tomato critic analysis here. He said it lacks any sense of direction and barely has fun with its semi-interesting premise. I'm appreciative of the cast members who are having a good time, but the rest is a bland mixture of everything wrong with these types of blockbusters. And I think that hits the nail on the head. And he doesn't even mention Guardians of the Galaxy. But a lot of people are mentioning it. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy, that's not the first movie ever to have a ragtag team together, like, doing wacky and crazy things. You know what I mean? It's like James Gunn didn't invent that type of thing. If that makes any sense. I don't know. But it's a weird one. It's just, like I said, the pacing is all over the place. The writing is whatever. Claptrap, as Black Jack playing as Claptrap, it just didn't really, I don't know, man. There's nothing outside of like the cast being a stacked cast. I think this is just another example of, you can have a amazing cast on paper, but depending on who's directing it, who's writing it, I just don't think Eli Roth was the best option for this. There's like, for a Borderlands movie, this movie has zero personality.
Yeah, there was actually a rumor out there that there was originally a script written by Craig Mazin, who obviously is coming off of Chernobyl and The Last of Us, so he's kind of like at the hot hand right now. But apparently he had written a script and it was really good, but then Eli Roth came in and they just kind of changed everything. But he scratched his name off of it.
Which is weird, because Craig Mazin wrote every episode of The Last of Us TV series. So it's like, I don't know what happened.
And they also, another big issue is it's a series of rated M games, and this movie's PG-13. That never made sense to begin with.
Yeah, that is very, very true. It's strange because so it looks like for Borderlands trivia here really quick, it looks like Tim Miller directed the reshoots in Eli Roth's place, as Roth was busy with Thanksgiving, the slasher movie that Eli Roth made, which also stars Gina Gershon, who is also in Borderlands. But I guess Jamie Lee Curtis describes her character in this movie as autistic. So there's that. And then, yeah, like you said, Craig Mazin was attached to write the screenplay before co-creating The Last of Us with Neil Druckmann. And then this is, upon its release for the Borderlands, the film debuted at an incredibly rare 0% on Rotten Tomatoes when it first came out. It stayed that way for a while. But what's really is interesting is that the filming for this movie was completed before the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes.
Yeah, there's just really nothing going with this movie. Like,
no.
It's one of those rare instances where it's hard to even come up with positive.
No, yeah, and it's like I was like, if there was a positive I can say, I did enjoy, probably out of everyone's performance, it would probably be Ariana Greenblatt's.
Yeah, she seemed to be the one putting in the most effort.
And then Cate Blanchett as well. I think those are like the two diamonds in the rough, I guess you could say.
That wig for Cate Blanchett, it's just so strange.
It's, I don't know, like even my friend Zach Pope from Zach Pope Reviews, he had said that for his Rotten Tomatoes score, this is the last one, I promise. He said this is a waste of time and money, and he's a major Borderlands fan. He also says it's a boring depiction of one of the wildest, craziest games to ever exist. As a massive fan of the games, I could not believe that they messed up what should have been a Mad Max meets Star Wars situation. And he says that Cate Blanchett was easily the best part. So, yeah, for this, it's just unfortunate that I guess it's the growing pains of video game adaptations, but I think that just goes back to I'll just get into my final thoughts here and my ratings. I don't even know how I would rate this, man. On Letterboxd, I gave this 1.5 stars. So I'm going to peg that as like a 10 out of 100 for me. Because
it's an all-time low for the podcast, that's for sure.
I think so. I mean,
it has to be.
It definitely has to be. Like, it's like they didn't even try with this. It's like, it feels like every take, for the most part, was like the first take, and they're like, okay, that's good. Let's move on to the next thing. But the fact that this whole movie was done prior to the SAG-AFTRA strike, I don't know. But what are your final thoughts and ratings on this film?
Yeah, nothing really to talk about here. Like, I'll probably give it I'll be nice and give it like a 20, I guess, just because they at least got some stars to be in it. Good for them. They probably placed a bag full of money on each of their desks and asked them to join, and they did. Because it definitely wasn't a passion project, that's for sure. You could tell that much just by
this was not
the performances we got. So, yeah, it's looking like one of the biggest flops of all time, just based on the numbers that we came. I think it was like $10 million the movie made the first weekend. It has a $120 million budget. Like, that's just done. So there's no more movies for that franchise.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really just confused about this. Like, everyone's saying it's a generic Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff. It's not. It's not knocking off anything. That's the one thing I will defend about this movie, but because it's not a knockoff. It's like it's been around forever, but not everyone plays video games. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, with all that said, that does conclude this very short, or one of our shorter episodes for Borderlands. It's just disappointing. I just wish it was handled with a little bit more care, because you see something like Fallout, which is, I would say, as equally wacky as Borderlands. It's a little bit more sophisticated wacky, but it just sucks that, this ended up this way. But hey, we got Arcane Season 2 coming out later this year, so that's all that matters. But as I mentioned, that does conclude today's episode. If you like what you heard on today's episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at FilmOptics. That is Optics with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a fellow movie lover, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optics podcast with a movie lover in need. So with Devin's 20 out of 100 and my 10 out of 100 against the official podcast score for Borderlands, and I think this is an all-time low for the podcast, is 15 out of 100, which is no bueno. No bueno. It just sucks, man. But, we got through it, and now we never have to watch it ever again.
You're not going to buy that cool Blu-ray 4K set?
No. I will say one more thing. Instead of Atlas being the villain, it should have been Handsome Jack. I don't know why.
Yeah, it was just generic Atlas guy.
Yeah, I was like, that was pretty weird. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But as far as new review releases, you can check out our Trap review that Devin and I covered of M. Night Shyamalan's most recent experimental film yet as of 2024. You can also check out our Batman Cape Crusaders Season 1 review that Mike and I covered together, and also check out our Deadpool and Wolverine review that Mike also joined Devin and I on, one of the wildest Marvel team-ups ever. And as far as upcoming releases, we have a few. We have Cuckoo. We're going to be covering that here actually very soon right after this review. And Devin, it's almost time. It's almost Alien Romulus time. I'm very excited for that. So we're going to be covering that as well as Blink Twice. I think that film, I've heard really, really good things about that film as well. We're going to try to do Umbrella Academy Season 4 as well, because now that I know it's only 6 episodes.
Yeah, nice and easy.
It's a little disheartening, but it's like, okay, you know. I feel like Netflix is like, you get 6 episodes.
Yeah, they at least got something.
Yeah, seriously, because that entire show could have just been canceled and honestly even taken off of the streaming service altogether. But those are just a few upcoming releases that you can look forward to here on the podcast. And again, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Stay connected with us by following us on Twitter and Instagram for the latest updates. That was Devin, and I'm Christian. Signing off, and remember, life is like a movie, so go out there and make it a blockbuster.
Peace.